For my professor interview, I'm interviewing Chad Navis, who is my professor for entrepreneurship and leadership. To start off the interview, I'm going to ask a couple general questions, and we can go from there. The first
Sounds
question
good.
is the first question is what was your major in college?
It was industrial management. So I was at Clemson, and it used to be a major then, but it's no longer a major today.
That's actually cool because my grandfather, who graduated in '58, he was an industrial management major also.
Oh, is that right? Oh, very cool.
Yeah. All right, and the second question is, why did you decide on this career and this position here at Clemson?
Yeah, so, see, this is why talking in an audio transcript is easier than writing. I've got a kind of long answer. The career I had never actually planned to go into. It was not even ever on my radar screen at all until long after undergrad. So I went into consulting for about 5 years after undergrad. Then was going back to get my MBA when I was really looking at that time toward pulling together a team to do a startup as part of the MBA program. And when I got into it, I took that. I mentioned this in the class at one point a while back, but I took a Myers-Briggs personality test, and one of the administrators at my MBA program said that I fit the profile of the university professor pretty well. And based on that, it just kind of put it on my radar screen to actually just even think about that, what that might be like. And so I investigated kind of that career. I went back and actually talked to my old advisor at Clemson, who she's not here anymore. She's the dean at, I think, Alabama, Birmingham. But and I just began to investigate it more and took a PhD seminar to see what that was like at the University of Georgia, and decided that what I liked about entrepreneurship and consulting, I could actually, get a lot of those benefits from being a professor at, as a career. So I get to work with a lot of different startups and student startups versus kind of just one of my own. So I went to Emory for a PhD. First position was at UW-Madison. Loved it up there. Still have a lot of great relationships and friends there. Actually had tenure at Wisconsin, but had an opportunity to come back to Clemson, which is where my family lives now.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife's family is from here. So came back here for that reason. So it wasn't a push to leave Wisconsin, but it was the drive kind of coming back to my alma mater. And a chance to kind of build up some things here too, which brought me back.
Very cool, very cool. The next question is, what do you like best about your job?
Probably the autonomy and flexibility of the job, and for me, just to kind of give you a sense of my job, a lot of my students think it's largely about teaching, and in some ways I wish it was more of that, but I'd say the teaching aspect is, I don't know, 10 or 20% of my time or my job. It's really largely focused on research. It's a big component of it, and service. But what I like about that is the variety. So there's just a lot of different things that I, get exposed to and can be involved in. So it's never mundane. But the other kind of piece of that that's nice is I can largely kind of dictate in some ways, for lack of better words, my schedule where I kind of devote more effort or not. So for me, the research just takes a lot of time, which is why it comprises a lot of time. But I really love the teaching aspect as much or more than anything. And working with in your class too, just student teams and kind of hopefully helping them get connected if they're interested in pursuing entrepreneurship to best set them up for success.
Nice, nice. The next couple of questions are more about students having success here at Clemson. So the next question is, what general advice would you give college students here at Clemson?
I would say to think beyond the kind of typical path. I guess one of the things that was frustrating, I guess, for me to come back here, and I saw a bit of a difference from Wisconsin, is it feels that at Clemson there's still that kind of typical expected career path where you go and you take your major curriculum and then you find the job at you target Michelin and Sunoco, BMW, all these scan source, all these great recruiters that we've got here, but it's this sort of kind of common pathway where I think as students and as career center, we put these sort of I don't know, kind of lower basic expectations on what our students can possibly do. And so for me, I think just the general, I guess, advice would be to think bigger, and to the extent you aim higher as students in terms of what you think you can do. Chances are, even if you don't achieve that, you're still going to be higher than you would have been if you just kind of go through the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult path.
Yeah, and then another thing is with entrepreneurship, if you have the right idea, like it can take you anywhere. So I guess thinking on a one track system like you're talking about, it's better to have an open mind and go from there.
Yeah, exactly, and that's actually another point where I could talk about this all day, but one of the I guess the challenges and frustrating things with entrepreneurship is a lot of the students that are the best entrepreneurs don't tend to be the best students. In terms of traditional classroom, and for that matter too, the career paths that Clemson has set up for those students aren't the ones where those students are going to necessarily have the best fit. So and there's there's a lot of research that says that people that are entrepreneurs that might go from startup back into kind of a traditional job are going to be more likely to leave. That the turnover rate's going to be a lot higher because it's just not a good fit. And I feel like the structure to get that kind of traditional job is pretty good here, but the one for students who are more kind of have this entrepreneurship bent, that structure, that ecosystem is getting a lot better, but it's not quite there yet. And kind of tied to that too is the expectations for what you care about in a classroom need to shift. Because we have largely an engineering school, there's a big focus on big, quantitative testing, clear things to learn that are explicit things that you need to know. Whereas entrepreneurship, it has a lot more to do with, in some sense, going and doing, experiencing, networking, inspiring, all these different elements that aren't necessarily given as much weight or importance in traditional fields, but are critical for entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on to the next question. What are the most common mistakes that you see students make here at Clemson?
I'd say that's a tough question. That's a good one, though. One that really applies anywhere, and maybe it's an easy question, is they fall behind too much their first year. Freshman year, you've got all this extra freedom and flexibility that if you get too kind of behind the eight ball in your coursework, it just makes the rest of your trip through the program that much more challenging. So there's that. I'd say to sort of on the opposite end of the spectrum too, it's not taking advantage of opportunities that are here, or looking and doing kind of the extra thing. So there's, with everything, as I see it, there's an importance for balance. You certainly want to devote enough attention to the academics, and you certainly want to experience the social aspect of school too, to keep part of it, in my view. But then the other piece of it is, I think, just challenging yourself and stretching yourself, putting yourself in different experiences and trying out different things. And I think a lot of times, students in general, it's not specific to Clemson necessarily, get comfortable. So, and because of that, they miss the opportunity to stretch themselves by trying to put themselves out there a little bit.
Definitely. The next question is, what are your expectations for your students in your classroom?
Yeah, mine are to, I create my classroom in a way that in some sense, students are going to get out of it what they put into it. For me, I want to. My expectations are that those, is for them to try to go above and beyond in some ways, but I always want to sort of push each kind of group a bit more every year in terms of, so just kind of speaking away from general questions, our class itself, to the extent that I go through each year and find certain teams that really kind of might kill it in terms of their website or their crowdfunding video. I'm going to every year try to use those and make those the standards as examples going forward, so that the standard itself keeps getting better. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, then the outcome of that is hopefully going to be that students expect that they can do that and can see that they can too if they put whatever effort they need to into it. So it kind of goes back to that idea of overcoming this belief that you can only do so much, as an individual, student, and hopefully showing them that they can do more than they think. That's kind of what it comes down to.
All right. And the next set of questions are more about the professionalism that students need to develop while they're here at Clemson. So a question I have for you is, what non-academic skill do you think is most important for college students?
Most. It's hard to pick this one. I mean, communication in general is one that I think is really important. In terms of, that's a tough one to answer. There's an aspect of, there's just these sort of like soft skills are so important, of like professionalism, of all these kind of circling back and making sure to sort of thank people to, it's a challenge for me as much as you, I know, in terms of like the classroom, like with, I go back to the idea of just simple not having laptops. And it's not like an archaic, like dinosaur view where I'm coming from in that sense. I know when I was in my MBA program, we could have laptops, and I personally was, not as focused on the class.
Mm-hmm.
And what that can translate to is, one, you're not going to think the class is as valuable because you're not going to be as focused on it, get as much out of it. And two, it kind of gets back to just sort of like a basic respect thing.
Mm-hmm.
To, come on time, stay focused, not limited period of time, like in a class, and that's true for like any sort of conversation you're going to have with a peer, a potential partner, or whatnot. It's just basic kind of soft social skills that, the benefit is because, people tend to be, I think, more generally inclined not to be as good with those things nowadays. You can really stand out above and beyond others if you are actually extra good at being dependable on time, respectful, all those kind of those basic things that we get taught as kids. Carries through our lives.
All right. And these next two questions kind of go with each other, so I'm gonna ask them together. What is the greatest non-academic skill that you think students at Clemson here lack, and how do you think that students can develop that skill here at Clemson?
Yeah, it's. What comes to mind more is sort of just taking that extra initiative. It's not a. I have a hard time saying that because some students, not every student's going to be the one that necessarily cares about or wants to be, a rock star in terms of, their careers and that sort of thing. So, setting that aside, just going. It's just kind of taking that extra initiative to go above and beyond expectations versus just getting by. And it's a simple thing to do that can make just a huge difference. But kind of going back to that last point, if you just do what's asked of you, you're going to be with the whole herd effectively. If you do just a little bit more here and there, it doesn't take that much, and you'll stand out, be rewarded for it. And I think to the extent that our students do that, in the workplace, will stand out. I think one of the things that does strike me as consistent with what I had hoped for and expected coming back here is, the character of the students. Really good students here. So I love the students. Just good kids, for lack of better words. But if they could complement that with, again, that sort of like extra drive sometimes, it would be a pretty killer combination.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of taking that added initiative without being asked to.
Yeah, and another thing is, I never thought I would take this CU 101 class, but the whole thing about this class is making sure you're not one of those students that just goes through the motions and just gets by. This whole class is about teaching you how to be the best student that you can be and going the extra mile and actually getting everything you can out of the degree that you get here at Clemson.
That's great. I didn't actually. I'm naive actually in terms of the class itself, so I'm real glad to hear that it's there. Is it a required class?
No, it's not required, but it helps students, like you were talking about earlier, students that get behind early on, and just helps them get back on track and
gotcha.
Stuff like that.
It almost sounds like it should be one freshman year requirement or something.
Yeah, I think so. I've gotten a lot out of this class. But to finish up the interview, there's a couple of fun questions. I guess more fun questions than the ones I asked you. But one question is, what do you do for fun outside of teaching, and what do you like to do with your family and stuff like that?
Yeah, so a lot of my time, those are kind of related. A lot of time outside of teaching tends to be with my family. We do a variety of things. So, like last weekend, we went, hiking up at Harris Mountain, go to Greenville a good bit. We don't live too far from downtown Greenville, so, take our dog down there and hang out. And I'd like to go to the lakes a lot whenever we get a chance in the summer. Used to like to ski. I hope I can do that again after my knee accident. But downhill ski. But that sort of thing. It's like, when given the opportunity, like to kind of take trips and just kind of hang out with friends. So probably like a lot of people. No, I guess I don't have any real kind of unique hobbies that would really kind of stand out. I just like to unwind when I get a chance because everything else with work tends to be pretty busy. So try to compartmentalize. And when I used to always just work largely through the weekends and a lot late at night, and now I'm really trying to not do that so much. Partly in the interest of family, but partly for my own sanity, and try to turn things off a bit at night during the week, and in terms of work, and not at all really. Try not to on Saturday and Sundays anymore. So yeah, but that's it. Just pretty much hang out, play with my kids, play with my dog, hang out with my wife.
All right.
Nothing too exciting.
Yeah. All right. It's a fun
question that I answer with a pretty mundane answer.
All right, and this last question's the big one. This one will put you on the record.
All right.
What record do you predict for the upcoming 2017 Clemson football team?
I'm going to say with the playoff games, I guess it would be 14 potential games, right? I'm going to still say, I'm going to go 12-2.
Cool.
Or not 12-2, but it would be, I guess, 11-2, maybe if they lost 2 games. I'm going to go You talking about regular season or just
Let's go with regular
conference?
season, and if you think they'll go back to the playoff.
Okay. I'm thinking they're going to miss the playoffs this year, but make it next year, and but still be in one of the big bowl games. So maybe regular season 10-2.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how many games they got? 12 games. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, a good 10-2. I think it's conservative. I actually feel like we could do better.
Yeah, it all depends on, I think, quarterback play this year.
Exactly. Yeah, on that note, they've got a really nice thing at Clemson, which I don't know if you're familiar with it, but they do this like faculty appreciation dinner, where one day during the spring, if you have a football player in your class, you get invited to this, watch the spring practice, and kind of go have dinner at the operations facilities. And last year, I had it and Dabble came by and would hang out, but went this year to that first close scrimmage, and my personal observations were that Bryant stood out well above the others. It sounds like I didn't see the spring game. That sounds like the other quarterbacks are coming on a little bit now, but he seemed head and shoulders above the others at this point, and his passing looked pretty good too.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. We'll see. But I think, but then also saw Hunter Johnson at that dinner, and he seems like a pretty kind of cool, collected, kind of leadership type guy. So I could see him potentially catching up at some point.
Yep. We're all looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So, well, good deal. Yeah, you can see why I couldn't answer those things in short order, and so I'll leave it to you to consolidate, or hopefully you can just turn on the interview.
All right.